Click, click, boom. What is going on, faithfuls? It's your boy, Nick, 49er Faithful 365, all day, every day, here to bring you another fun-filled episode on the Nothing But Niners podcast. If this is your first time here, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Bang, 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 bang. That helps us and helps other people find us on the channel. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. Give us a follow on Snapchat and Twitter. That's nothing but 9ERS. That's nothing but number 9ERS. Snapchat and Twitter. Facebook and Instagram and Twitch is all spelled out. Nothing but Niners. No or spaces in between. Check us out over there on Facebook and Instagram. Our Facebook page, I think, is up to like 18K. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate Mike holding that down over there as well. NY to the Bay. Shout out to you. Guys, we brought on another new writer this week, right? Marcus. So I want to thank Marcus for joining the crew as well. And, okay. I want to thank Marcus for coming on the show and or coming on to the pod as a writer. So check out his first article that's up and live on nothingbutniners.com right now. Other than that, man, if you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can email us at nb9ers@nothingbutniners.com. You can also pick up that nice merch at shopnb9ers.com. Give us a follow on SoundCloud, iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all of them Google, any Google Play, all the podcast platforms, whatever you guys listen to your podcasts on, you can give us a follow there. So tonight, guys, we are going to dig into this Giants 49ers game. If you are just joining us again, we had a show earlier at 7 p.m. with Kid Blue, so that was Gio. Appreciate him coming on the show. We broke down the game on the Giants' perspective as well as ours a little bit. We didn't really dig in too much on the 49ers side, but that's why we're here tonight. So without further ado, my man Mike is here now. Brian is here, and Tony looks like he's popping in now as well. Mike, what's going on, man?
Yo, what's going on, everybody? I'm outside. I'm at the fire pit. I'm about to light the cigar and the stogie, and I'm ready to talk about this Niners and Giants game. So let's do this, man. I'm having fun.
All right, Brian, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Good. Yourself?
I can't complain, man. Can't complain. Look, Tony, what's going on, man?
What's up? What's going on, guys?
Chilling, man. Chilling. Look, we just did a show with Kid Blue. We talked about the Niners-Giants game. He dug into a very knowledgeable guy on the Giants. I don't know if you guys caught that or not who weren't on the show, but I kind of want to talk about a little bit about what he was talking about, right? So let's start this off first off with our injuries. If this is your first time here tonight listening to us, the Niners are being hit with the injury bug, and it looks like every 15 minutes somebody new's going on it, right? So obviously officially out for Sunday against the Giants is quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo with his ankle. Running back Raheem Mostert, it says his knee, but he's also with his wife who just had their newborn baby, Nico, I believe. So congratulations to Raheem on the birth of their baby, their second child. Also, Tevin Coleman, Kyle Shanahan had talked about Tevin Coleman and saying that they're more worried and concerned about Tevin Coleman's injury compared to Raheem Mostert's. Looks like it could be a few weeks for Tevin Coleman. D Ford still having those issues from the neck spasms to the back spasms. Still week to week, day to day, could be week to week, day to day, month to month, that Kyle Shanahan said. Tight end George Kittle. Earlier today, it was announced on KNBR from Kyle Shanahan that he was a game time decision. Kyle Shanahan then spoke at the presser and said that George Kittle was out. And then a new person added to, well, not new, but new, assuming that we didn't think he was going to not play. But linebacker Dre Greenlaw is out. And then officially listed as questionable is Akello Witherspoon. So looks like Jason Verrett is ready to go if Akello can't. Mike, what are your thoughts on the injuries, man? Like this is a lot of injuries going into week 3 against the New York Giants 0-2 team.
Yeah, it is. And it's very concerning. I mean, I want to see what Jason Verrett can do. I'll be honest with you guys. I don't know if you remember before when Richard Sherman went down, I said, hopefully we can see Jason Verrett now. People have been dying and clamoring for this. And for better or worse, we need it to happen sooner rather than later. We need to see what this guy can do and what he can't do, if he's going to be limited, if he's going to be like how he was against the Steelers when we saw him and they yanked him really quick. Then we need to know that going forward so we can prepare for the long term. And when I say long term, I mean this season. Like, we can't keep him here if he's going to continue to look like that. And then if someone goes down, albeit Spoon or Sherman again or Mosley, whoever it is, if they go down again and he's the backup and he looks that bad, we need to know that we have to move on. So I'm most anticipating him. I want to see him more than anything else. I know that Witherspoon injury is legit. It is a legit injury. It's not something that they're saying just so they can put Verrett out there. I know that people sometimes think that those things happen. Well, Spoon played so bad they're going to fake an injury, right? I did my research. It's true. It is legit. Witherspoon is actually having some tightness with his hamstrings, but he's day-to-day. So it's not that he's ruled out yet, but he is day-to-day. We'll see what happens. But that's my biggest concern, especially in the secondary, because it's the easiest part of the schedule. Put him out there now, because in 2 or 3 weeks, it's going to turn up.
Yeah, you hit it right on the head. And obviously, a lot of people have been fathoming for Jason Verrett to play opposite. A lot of people going into the season said if Jason Verrett was healthy, that he would be the starter opposite of Richard Sherman, right? Do we get to see that week? And that's still a question to be answered. Obviously, it depends on the tight hamstring. Now, I'm going to ask you guys this question about Ahkello Witherspoon. And we've been going back and forth about this, about the field and players not playing or people not playing. Do you think the field conditions will have anything to do with whether or not Ahkello Witherspoon starts or plays this week with the tight hamstring? Not that he's got an injured hamstring or a pull or a strain or anything like that. It's just tightness. But Tony, what are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I think it's going to be a game time decision. They're going to try to work him out on the field a little bit, see how it reacts on that type of field. And if there's any doubt, I don't think he plays. And I think Verrett gets the nod.
Brian, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm with you, Tony. I think the same thing. I think that they'll go out there and get some pregame warm-ups and see how things go. He may come in, but I fully expect Verrett gets the start.
All right, so are you guys as interested as Mike is? And Mike is kind of interested for different reasons, right? He's not excited to see Jason Verrett, as in see what he is, right? He's kind of on the ledge, and if correct me if I'm wrong here, Mike, but you're kind of on the ledge as to see who is Jason Verrett now and what is he going to bring to this team? Not because you want to see him fail to where Ahkello Witherspoon can get in there or anything like that. It's more so to see what this team has in depth or as a starter going forward. What are your guys' expectations of Jason Verrett? And we'll go with Brian first. If Jason Verrett gets to start, what are your expectations for him coming off? Obviously, he's played in one game in 2018. Was it 2018 or 19? 18, I believe it was, right? He didn't touch the field last year. So 2018. So, what are your expectations of him coming into this game, whether it be coverage skills, speed skills, the ability to recover? What are your expectations for Jason Verrett going into this game if he gets to start?
Well, if we're going to continue to go with the previous plan with our new secondary coach, then I expect to see more man coverage, right? That's what Odin likes. So whether it's him or Mosley, I want to see that either one of them be able to alleviate the what's his name, Slayton, right? Because he's really their biggest threat right now as a wide receiver with Shepard out, and I know Tate's there too, but I'm more concerned with Slayton than I am Tate. Tate is a great receiver, but I think that given the statistics we've seen from the first 2 weeks, that Slayton is a bigger concern. I know that the one game that we saw him in, whether it was early last year or the year before, I can't remember now, like you're saying. I'm hoping that we don't see that Verrett. I want to see, the old Pro Bowl Verrett, but I don't know. We're not going to know until he's out there. He wouldn't have made this roster if he wasn't healthy. I don't think that they're just holding on to him because they put money into him. I think that, he made that team. So I fully expect that he's going to go out there, start, and I just hope that he can hold his own for the entire game with whichever side they stick him on, with keeping up with one of those two receivers, whatever the Giants decide to do.
Right. Now, Tony, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts and expectations of Jason Verrett going into this game?
Well, I mean, expectation, we really don't know what could he expect. As long as he's healthy, I mean, that's the number one thing. What he does now, it's his opportunity to rise to the occasion and shine. He was brought onto the team last year. They took a shot on him, minimal deal. Odin came in. I'm sure they broke down film on all the corners. And as soon as Odin came in, like within 3 weeks, they re-signed him to a 1-year deal. So obviously Odin saw something in him. You can't question his talent. He is a very talented corner, but the problem is he cannot stay healthy. So with that being said, this is a golden opportunity to make him and give himself a chance to show that he still has it if he is 100% healthy. I mean, we heard reports from that Pittsburgh game where he got smoked on 2 plays that he wasn't 100% in that game. The knee wasn't the knee didn't bounce back like they thought it did. So, I mean, you can't – it's not an excuse, but look at the kid's track record. He never stayed healthy. So I think this is a golden shot for him to make it to prove that he's back. He's not facing an elite wide receiver like a Julio Jones type wide receiver. These are smaller, shiftier guys. Could fit into his skill set where he can get on the line and jam them and then play man off of them. So with that being said, I think I'm hoping he has a solid game, but we don't know. We're not going to find out until this game starts. And I'm pretty sure the Giants, if he is the starter and Witherspoon is inactive, the Giants are going to test him just like Pittsburgh did.
Now, let me ask you this question because something that Brian said kind of sparked my interest, and I want to hear what you guys have to think about this, right? And Mike, you were just on with me with Kid Blue, and Kid Blue said that Daniel Jones's ability is better against man coverage than it is against zone coverage. And he's really, really good against man coverage. Brian went and said he'll be interested to see, if we're playing man and how Jason Verrett holds up in man. Do you think this is something that we know the Niners have been switching back and forth, but playing more man this year with Odin, right? Do you think this is something that us going in playing man where that benefits Daniel Jones in playing better than zone? Do you think that benefits the New York Giants and then makes our secondary more susceptible, bringing a guy who hasn't played a game in a year, longer than a year, but here for the 49ers, and then obviously an Akello Witherspoon if he starts with coming off a tight hamstring, and then being down Richard Sherman and having Emmanuel Mosley? Do you think that puts us behind the 8 ball on the pass game with the Giants, considering that Kid Blue is stating that Daniel Jones eats with man coverage compared to zone coverage?
Was that question to me or to the panel? To me? Okay.
To all of you. But I want you to answer it first because we were just talking about that last show.
Yeah. I think zone might be the way to go. If you're not sure how your secondary is going to perform, keep their eyes forward as much as possible. That's the way I think about it. I could be wrong. But if you think that these guys could possibly be a liability, then let the scheme play defense and not the individual players. Do them in zone and just hope that the communications are good where they know when to pass off and when to shed the guys and go to the next guy. If you're worried about, someone losing some speed, I would say you want to put them in zone. If you're worried that one guy may be a step slower than what he used to be because he's getting older, and Jason Verrett, put him in zone and let him play an area of the field as opposed to just manning up one-on-one. Anybody else want to take it?
Yeah, Tony, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree with that to a point because we've noticed that the 49ers have played totally different coverages than previous year under Joe Woods. This team tends to play one side man and the other side is the zone. They did it several times versus Arizona. And I noticed they did it a couple times versus the Jets. Of course, Witherspoon was on the zone side and Mosley was on the man side. And they also, if I'm correct, I think Mosley played the wide side. Right, Mike? Oh, he's frozen, I think.
Yeah, he is frozen.
Yeah, he's in.
I think Mosley played the wide side of the field like Sherman did, and Witherspoon played the short side. So I think that, you see, if his strength is 100% press, like off the line, bump and run off the line of scrimmage, I would let him stick to his strength, because if his strength is preventing that wide receiver to get a clean release, let him do it. Where if he was purely a zone corner, I'd be like, well, let him play zone. So it's going to be interesting, because I got to be honest with you, these first 2 games, you've seen multiple different types of variations in their coverage. It's been different. It's been man, it's been zone, it's been full zone, one side man. It's been crazy. You see Jimmy Ward in the box, you see Jimmy Ward back deep, you saw Tart in the box, you've seen Tart back deep. So they're really mixing it up this year.
Tony, did you say that Spoon played the short side of the field?
Yeah.
Mike said that he played the bigger side of the field. I thought it was more so the short side of the field also when I rewatched it.
Yeah, Mosley played the wide side.
No, he didn't.
Don't you remember when you said
has a big side?
Then why you said to me on the phone that he played Sherman's spot on the wide side of the field instead of Mosley on the wide side of the field? Because I watched the game and I saw it.
I was saying, why would they give if Mosley is supposed to be the number 2 guy and the number 1 guy goes down, you would think that the number 2 guy moves into the number 1 spot, which was the wide side of the field. That's not what they did. They put Spoon there and kept Mosley where he was.
Okay.
All right, so either way, look, right? So last week we kind of all agreed that, this is Ahkello Witherspoon's time to prove himself, right? And whether it's against the bad Jets team or whatever it is, we were saying that we need to give him the utmost confidence and congratulate him no matter how he played, right? So we kind of did that, right? And we said, so I'm gonna flip the script now, right? So Ahkello Witherspoon, if doesn't play because of a hamstring tightness, which we know is a true fact, this isn't hiding an injury and not playing, right? As you stated before, Mike. So if Jason Verrett gets this start, is this Jason Verrett's opportunity? Now we all know it's his opportunity, right? But does this game affect him going forward? And what I mean by that is, does it push him up to a number 2 corner when Sherman comes back, or does it push him down the depth chart? Does it have that implications to play well this game, or is this game is just like, okay, it's a first game back for him, we'll take it as it goes and then go from there? Do you think that the implications on the game and the way he plays has anything to do with how he can move up or down the depth chart this week?
I personally don't. I don't think. I think that it will matter. Like obviously when Sherman comes back, he'll be number 1, right? And I don't think that Verrett's play necessarily bumps Mosley or Spoon if he's healthy. I think that they will rotate those guys as necessary. Whoever's got doing the best job is going to get the hot hand, if you will, right?
What are your thoughts, Tony?
I think if Verrett balls out, he shows up, he doesn't give up big plays, his couple breakups, nothing gets behind him. They target him 5 times, he only completes like 1 or 2 passes for minimal gains. I could see him leapfrogging Witherspoon, because I think Witherspoon's a very talented corner, but I just think the guy thinks way too damn much. And you see it on the film because he's always 1 step behind. And it's not because he's slow. It's not because he's not talented. It's just when you think of something, your reaction time is double. Like you're always going to be a step behind. And that's what I think that kid's flaw is, the mental side of the game where he overthinks it. And I just think if he can break that, I think if he can get over that and correct that, where he's the type of corner, where he has like an okay game and then just brush it off. And then the next week he locks down the one side. I think he could be a good corner if he could break that mental flaw.
Yeah. And that's always been my issue with Ahkello, was not his athletic ability, but his consistency. Right. And, it's funny that you say that about thinking, right? Let's take it back a little bit, right? Let's go to DeForest Buckner and Eric Armstead, right? In their first 2 years here, right? Maybe going into their 3 years. It was a complicated defensive scheme, right? And when they simplified things, as in, look, don't think so much, just do this, and gave them a lot less things to do, they excelled. They excelled in the position. Is the things, and then Mike, I'm going to let you answer the question about Jason Verrett moving up the depth chart or down the depth chart. So you'll answer that next. But the next question I want you to follow right into is not, do we need to simplify things on this defensive side to help Ahkello Witherspoon along? Because I think he's very talented. But I also agree with you, Tony, on the fact that there is a lot of inconsistencies there. And it could be the way that his mental is, as in thinking so much, trying to process things, but over processing them. So Mike, your answer, do you think that if Jason Verrett plays well this week or plays poorly, that can have an effect, will have a severe impact on him going forward on this team, whether it be jump the depth chart or push him lower below the depth chart to where he doesn't see the field again?
I would hope so. You want these guys to earn it. And if he's playing good, then leave him in there. If he's not, then you don't want him to go back in there again. I don't think it's and that goes for any player, whether it be Jason Verrett, Spoon, Johnson, Mosley, Sherman. I don't care which one of those guys it is. If you want to see them go out there and put their best foot forward, and if their best foot isn't as good as another one, then you want to replace them. And it's not anything offensive to anybody.
Right.
That's what football is based on
every day.
So
it's competition
I'm okay
every day.
with that.
So do you think that, going off what Tony said, do you think that there's a little bit of truth to that with Witherspoon, as in, do you think he's over processing things and thinking too much compared to some of the other corners, or even, like I said, with DeForest Buckner taking it back, Eric Armstead and things like that? Because their play definitely elevated when it was a simplified thing, as in, okay, you don't need to worry about all these stunts, all this other stuff. You don't need to think about where you're going. Just go straight, play the run on the way to the quarterback, and simplify things. And their careers took off, right? So DeForest Buckner came out once he was in that system and got 13.5 sacks. Eric Armstead dealt with some injuries, but still had 9.5 sacks, I believe it was that year. So is simplifying this defense, is that something that we need to look into for Ahkello Witherspoon, as in, stop over processing things, stop thinking so much, because you have the talent to play this position, but you're overthinking, which is putting you out of position to play where you should be in position. And I think we lost Mike again. That looks very evil. You're on mute.
I don't think that the defense needs to be simplified for him. I think he just needs to do his job. A lot of times, last year we remember me defending him tooth and nail. That wasn't a touchdown on him. He was trying to help somebody else. When he knocked Cooks out of the game, that wasn't his guy. He was helping. Stop trying to help people. Look, if they mess up, let them finally go ahead and take the blame for it. Do your job, and that's it. Another thing that people don't realize is that they always have a safety over the other corner. Ahkello rarely gets safety coverage on his side of the field. It's always on the other guy. Doesn't make any sense, but that's what it is. If he's supposed to be the liability out there, why are you constantly trusting him on that island by himself? Where you put it on other people, they have it, they have the support, but we'll see what happens. You know what I mean? I don't think they need to simplify the defense for him. I think he needs to just do his job. And that could be a part of what Tony's saying with overthinking, because now you're looking at, I got my guy locked, I see some trouble over there, maybe I can go help out over there. That is overthinking, so I get it to that point. I don't think the defense is too complicated for him.
Right. And that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it's so much the defense as in simplifying it. It's just, worry about your job and your job only. Don't worry about different things on this defense, right? So now, Tony, correct me if I'm wrong, but the safety kind of shadows, depending on the side of the field, where the big play can happen is in the wider side of the field. They'll tend to shade to that side compared to the other side. Did we see that with Ahkello Witherspoon last game? Was the safety top over the top on more of his side of the field, shading because he was playing the bigger side of the field? It's just, I think it kind of just depends on where you're lined up and where that safety's lined up. And also how many receivers are on one side compared to, are you playing in man? Are you playing zone? There's a lot that goes to it. I don't think it's just that they're targeting Ahkello and saying, okay, well, you don't need help over top. It's just, I think the the system that the offense is running kind of dictates that as well. But look, either way, right? Do you think – let's just answer this. Do we think that Akello starts this week? Do we think he plays this week, or do we think that he sits because of the field conditions and not sure about the tightness in the hamstring?
If he's not 100%, he's sitting.
Brian?
I was going to ask Tony, do you think he's inactive or is he just in reserves?
Well, how many corners do we have if he doesn't dress? We only have 3 then. We have Quan Williams, we have Verrett, we have Mosley, and then Johnson. So we have 4.
Right.
See, I'm thinking they have to keep him active, but he's not going to start. That's
well, they signed the kid Webster off of Miami's practice squad, and they had to put him on the active roster.
Right.
So I guess they feel if it's that bad, I think they're going to sit him and then put this kid on the activate him to dress that day.
All right. So you think that he, if he's not 100%, he doesn't play. Brian, do you think that he's active and he just doesn't play in the game unless an injury or something happens?
Yeah, I think that he'll be active for the game, but I think he's going to be on the bench.
All right. And Mike, what are your
something
thoughts?
Changes between now and game time.
Right. And Mike, what are your thoughts on Akello? Do you think he plays this week, or do you think he's going to
I hope not. I don't want him to start this week. I really want Jason Verrett to get the start. So that's what I hope. It's not because of injury or anything. Like I said at the very beginning, people deserve to see what Jason Verrett is and what he isn't. And I swear, I just want to go ahead and get it over with. Let's just go ahead and do it. And I hope he balls out too. It's not saying it with I hope he fails. So now you guys see that it's not one of those things. I really hope he balls out. Let's go ahead and let's get to it.
Right.
And just another thing, though, is now if you're going to address Akello and he's not going to start, he's going to have to play special teams. So now, what is he going to be able to offer playing special teams if his hamstring's not 100%? Because majority of the time, you're in a full-out sprint down the field. So they have to keep that in the back of their heads, too, when they make this decision on him.
So who were our inactives on week 2? So let me see here.
CJ Beathard, George Kittle.
Well, George Kittle was out, not inactive. I'm just trying to think of who the
but he's inactive. He's not on the IR, so he's out. He's inactive.
Right, but he's out. But I'm saying playing, out and inactive aren't they 2 different things technically?
No, he wasn't dressed for the 50. He wasn't dressed.
Okay, so yeah, dressed. Okay, yeah. I'm saying all right. So George Kittle would be in there. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got him. Who else was it?
CJ Beathard, George Kittle.
Was Verrett out last week too?
Verrett was inactive.
We have the internet at our fingertips.
Yeah, I'm looking. It's right here. CJ Beathard, Jason Verrett, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, D Ford, Tom Compton, and George Kittle. So those were the 6 inactives last week, right? So
how many came out today on the out?
Out?
How many were out today?
Mostert, Kittle, Garoppolo,
Coleman, D Ford.
Yeah, so they're pretty much going to be all those guys are going to be down. Minus, and then Witherspoon would be 6.
So look, we can look for Demetrius Flanagan-Foles to be on the field because obviously Dre Greenlaw is not playing, so he'll be a guy that's active, right? D Ford is going to still be out. Tom Compton is still up in the air, obviously. So George Kittle will definitely be out. So that's 2 with D Ford and George Kittle. CJ Beathard is going to be active because Nick Mullens is the starter. So Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be out. So what is that? 6 guys, right?
3.
And then we have what's that?
Yeah.
No, I'm saying with the injured guys. So George Kittle, D Ford, Nick, Jimmy Garoppolo, Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert, and who am I missing?
Akello, if he is. That's 6. And that's pretty much your inactives right there. So because
people who are out don't count as – oh, wait, I'm sorry. Never mind.
Right, they do. That's what I was trying to say. So you can only dress 46, right? Well, 40.
No, you could dress
48.
48.
If you elevate the two.
If you elevate 2, you can dress 48, right? So do we even have enough to go in? We're going to have to elevate, right? So obviously JaMychal Hasty has been elevated, and
Dion Jordan.
So that's 2 elevations this week. And then
Was he elevated or did he get signed to the squad?
who's that?
Jordan. Didn't they
Jordan
bring
was
him up?
elevated.
He just got brought up.
Right, but did they bring him up for the 55 or did they bring him up to be part of the 53-man roster? With the loss of the 2 defensive ends, we need to replace them, right? So that was
I think they
Jordan
brought him
and
up to the
Ansah.
55 right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think because of the Ansah signing.
Because
Right.
of Ansah replaced Bosa. And I think they were talking about activating or bringing up Daniels. But I don't know if they're going to do it because now DJ Jones is playing. So I don't know what their plan is for that.
It's going to be kind of interesting to see who our inactives are this week because we don't really have that many positions open to go as inactives. And are we going to even have the 48? That's what I'm trying to get at right now. With the injuries, the call-ups, are we going to even be at 48?
I think we will.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we will.
But I'm still not sure about the Jordan. I thought he was elevated to the 53 to replace Solly.
Yes, you are correct. Dion Jordan was originally on the practice squad, and they elevated him to the 53 or the active. I don't know if it's 55 or 53, but he went from practice squad to the active.
That's what I thought. That's the way I interpreted the information that came out because they haven't elevated Hasty yet to the 55-man roster. And so I don't know who else they're going to elevate along with him or if they elevate anyone else. But I was pretty sure that Jordan was already elevated along with the Ansah signing just so that we have both defensive ends covered.
Yeah, I thought it was just that they just promoted him from the practice squad, bringing him up this week. And then they just announced the Hasty sign.
Because I think the 55 doesn't get elevated until Saturday. And that's why Kyle said that he was alluding to the fact that Hasty was going to be elevated, but hadn't been yet.
Correct. Gotcha. Hasty was the only protected player this week. Also, take note. Right. Was the only player that was protected, which is kind of weird. I'm surprised that we're not protecting, Kevin Whites or people like that. So it's kind of interesting.
And both Over the Cap and Spot Rec have Dion Jordan on the active roster.
Okay. All right. So I stand corrected then. Thank you, Brian, for that. All right. So real quick, let's go over this. So we just what's that face for?
Why are you being so nice to Brian? When I correct you, it's an argument. Brian corrects you, and you thanked him.
Well, because he's correct. You're not always correct, so I'm going to argue with you.
Oh, all right.
I'm not always correct either.
So, but look, no, but really, seriously, all right. So we talked about running back, or we talked about cornerbacks, right? There was a question asked today in the presser, and I want to get your guys' thoughts on it. The question was asked by, I believe, Chris Biederman, and it was about Nick Mullens. And we're going to talk about Nick Mullens playing right now. But the question was basically, if Nick Mullens comes out here and plays well or bad, does that have any indication of who the quarterback is when Jimmy Garoppolo comes back? What are your guys' thoughts on that question, first off?
I don't even know why he would ask that question. That's my first thought.
I think Nick Mullens is going to be the starter until Jimmy's healthy.
True.
Right, but the question was asking him if he plays well and carries this team when Jimmy Garoppolo comes back. Well, Nick, is it basically starting a quarterback battle or a controversy in San Francisco if Nick Mullens plays? This was the question asked today.
No, right. I don't know why the hell he would ask that, but
I literally had to stop it, and I went into the text, and I'm like, wait, did I really just hear this question? So, Mike, you heard the same thing, right? Like, what? You can't get yourself off mute now? All right. So my question is, let's move into
I'm pretty sure it was Chris Biederman that asked the question. It was just a silly question. I mean, I know a lot of people are saying, "Oh, Mullen should be the starter," but I don't think that anybody takes that serious. This team has come out in support of Jimmy for so long. It was a very silly question. It was just
I mean, it would take, to me, I think it would take something catastrophic like Jimmy's not coming back for the next 6 weeks, and then Mullens just balls out for 6 weeks to say, okay, you know what, we got some chemistry here, let's keep it rolling, then maybe. But I don't see that that's in the cards right now. I have a feeling, from my perspective, Jimmy will be back next Sunday.
Right. Now let's talk about Nick Mullens a little bit, right? So we obviously know Jimmy Garoppolo's out now, so obviously he's not playing this week. Nick Mullens, during his presser, the question was, how do you feel that you grew since the last time you played in 2018, right? And he goes and he talks about his arm strength, blatantly about his arm strength, right? And he's like, I can't wait to use it all over the field, right? What are your guys' feelings on how can I ask this? All right, so playing the New York Giants, does that ease you a little bit with Nick Mullens taking over this offense? Or are you still just as nervous and the ability to still lose this NFL football game? I'm going to say NFL football game because it is an NFL game and anything can happen. What are your thoughts on going into this game with Nick Mullens as the signal caller and his comfortability level? I believe it was Grant Cohn I watched, and they were talking about who should Jimmy Garoppolo target, or who will he target, or not Jimmy Garoppolo, Nick Mullens target going into this game, because Brandon Aiyiuk hasn't taken any snaps really from him. He's been playing with the ones all training camp pretty much because Debo's been out. There is no Debo Samuel. Kendrick Bourne is a hot hand for Nick Mullens, right? George Kittle has been a go-to guy for Nick Mullens. How do we think Nick Mullens handles the pressure of taking over this team and being that guy? Look, let's face it. This is a total different team than when Nick Mullens took over before, right? But it's also a total different teams as in experience, leadership, and ability to win compared to what it was there. So does that pressure come with being the starter now and saying, look, I can't go into this game and make us 1-2. Like, that's how bad it can hurt this team with the injuries. Is there a lot more pressure on Nick Mullens going in, and what do you expect of him going into this game? Is there a lot more pressure on him right now? Let's go Tony first.
I think there is pressure on him. But I also think that Nick could carry this team until Jimmy gets back, if they decide to hold him out one more week. I don't think there's going to be one specific guy that's going to be his favorite target. I think it's going to be on this play. Aiyiuk is going to be schemed open for him to get the ball. I think Kyle's going to make it very, 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 very easy for him. I think if Kyle gets cute and starts doing the stupid shit, that's where I think this team could struggle on offense. Because when we get into this, like talking about the Giants against the Niners, like as far as the defensive line versus the offensive line, I think this offense goes as far as the interior line plays in this game. So with that being said, I think if Kyle keeps it basic, I think if he runs his run game, his outside zone, his inside zone, his power off tackle, power inside, then he does his play action off of that, roll in the pocket, left, right, jet sweep. If he keeps that defense off balance, I think they're going to come out fine. But if he gets cute, I think that's where this team could struggle a little bit.
Mike, what are your thoughts?
Damn, I was trying to let B go. All right. I because I know, I feel like, he has done much speaking.
I'm rotating.
All right, it's all good. The main question I think that you were trying to ask was like, who does Nick Mullens have chemistry with, right? Like, who's going to be his go-to guy in this game? He doesn't have much rapport with many people on this roster right now. But I think that being the backup quarterback, he's probably got some rapport with Brandon Aiyiuk, right? I think that they worked Aiyiuk into the starting lineup, make him start with the number 2s and then put him in there with the 1s. You know what I'm saying? So I think that he would have some kind of rapport with him. I also think that we already know what he has with Trent Taylor. He played with him also. He's got Kendrick Bourne already. You know what I'm saying? He's definitely got rapport with Ross Dwelly. They've been on the team for a long time together. So it's not like he doesn't know any of these guys out here. And we know that Jet McKinnon was getting a lot of snaps with the twos also. So he's going to have rapport with some of those guys out there. And as far as how comfortable I am with it, it don't matter. It don't matter if I'm comfortable or if I'm uncomfortable, because the truth of the matter is he's going to be the quarterback. There's nothing we can do about it.
So the main question is, do you feel like Nick Mullens has more pressure on him coming into this game compared to when he came in after C.J. Beathard's injury? And the reason I say that is because in 2018, right, his pressure wasn't – we were a bad team, right? Record-wise, all around, we were a bad team. This year coming in, he was the third guy. He's coming in for a second-string backup that got hurt after Jimmy Garoppolo. So Jimmy Garoppolo, C.J. Beathard, then him. He's coming in for a team that is a winning team that just had a Super Bowl appearance, and the expectations of the team themselves, of the guys in the locker room, is bigger than what they were in 2018. So does that put more pressure on him as coming in saying, I need to be 2-1 going out of this game compared to 1-2?
And I completely get what you're saying, but the answer is no, because he's not going to win or lose the Super Bowl in this game. That's just the truth. He's not gonna determine the future of this team in the playoffs by this game that's coming up right here. So I don't think there's any more or less pressure at all.
I kind of tend to disagree with you there.
I agree with you on that.
I tend to disagree with you there. And the reason that I disagree with you, and before we get to Brian's answer on this, but the reason that I disagree with you is because one game right now, being where we're at in the West, if you can't get to a Super Bowl, if you can't get to the playoffs, you got to be able to win these games that you need to win, because in the long run, this game can hurt you. This game can physically hurt you from getting to a Super Bowl. I know you say you're not losing a Super Bowl right now, but you're also losing the opportunity. If you don't win this game is a must-win game for us, because we're already 1-1 in a division that's all undefeated, therefore making the playoffs a lot harder right now. Each game going forward is a must-win until we get into standings in the NFC West, at least, to make it to the playoffs. So I don't know if that's why you agree, Tony, but to me, every game going forward right now is important, because if you lose these games that you need to win going into the stretch that you're going to, your playoff hopes are pretty much diminishing each time that you lose. And already losing a division game hurts us.
The way you got to think about it is last year. If we win versus Atlanta, Seattle means nothing. We lost versus Atlanta, and that play on the half-yard line kept us from going to the 5 seed. So, in my opinion, this stretch of our schedule is very winnable games up until right when we hit the Rams. Then it goes downhill. It's hard as hell. And I think personally, this team will be hitting their stride as far as all their injuries coming back by that point. That's why I think these games are very important, that we win these games. And that's why I think the pressure could be on them now, where in 2018, you win, you win, you lose.
All right, so how about I meet you guys in the middle? So I think that there is pressure on him, but I think he has developed since the last time he started for this team, that the pressure will not affect him as much. That's my thought process with Mullens. As far as whom he's going to have chemistry with, like you said, his big favorite was Kittle, but he's not there, so that's not an option. Maybe he worked with Aiyiuk during the offseason. We don't have all the details on that, so I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that as a young quarterback, he probably is going to depend on his veteran, and I expect to see more out of Sanu this week, just because that's someone who's been in the league for a while, knows the routes. He probably feels as though he can trust him. He's probably will use Bourne and Trent as well, but I think that you see more connection there. And then, like I talked to you guys offline about earlier, I think that his inexperience in a press conference or in a presser, I think that he may have let it slip the game plan a little bit. I think that we're going to see a little bit more of Jet, and I think that he'll be doing some passing there. And so you're going to see those jet sweeps or play action more so. And I think that's going to play to his strengths. He may not be throwing the long ball. And again, he may see Sanu go for a 50-yard, or 70-yard touchdown. Who knows? But I think that those are the people he's going to rely on. And Jordan Reed's still there. He's a veteran. I mean, it's not like are, while we love to have Kittle in the game, Reed's perfect to go in there and hold the tight end position down for the stretch. And it's kind of where I sit. I mean, I think those are the only two parts, right?
Yeah, and we're gonna go back to Mike here for a second, but I didn't even think about Jordan Reed. Jordan Reed was definitely taking 2 snaps later in the year before he started getting worked in, right? But I see Nick Mullens as a guy who focuses on two or so guys, where Jimmy Garoppolo is a guy who tries to spread the ball around. And that's what you see from him playing in 2018. Now, how much different will he be coming into this year? That is to be seen as well. So, Mike, I don't know if you want to touch base on – I see your face, so I don't know if you want to touch base on the whole pressure thing. So,
yeah, so there's no such thing as a must-win Week 3 game. It's not. You guys can say what you want. The Rams started 3 or 4-0 last year and weren't close to making the playoffs. A lot can change throughout the course of an NFL season. This is not a must-win game under any circumstance. Any game that's a must-win, and then this is the route, this is the roster that we're running out there with all these injuries, then you guys are basically giving up on the season. And I don't think any of you guys are going to sit here and say, if we happen to lose this game, oh, the season's over. That's it.
No,
none of you guys are going to think that when the show is over and the game is over.
That's not what we're saying, though. But if you lose the
when you tell me it's a must-win game, you're saying that if we don't win, then the season's done.
No, I did not once say that. I said your chances of making the playoffs are worse than they are right now. So you need to go
after every game you lose, your chances are worse than at making the playoffs. That doesn't make any sense.
That's exactly what I said.
So is every game a must-win? You called this game a must-win. You said it was a must-win game.
It's a must-win going forward. It is a must-game going forward. And the reason why is because the injuries that are on this team, and the stretch that we have to go through between the Green Bays, the New Orleans Saints, and the Seattle Seahawks, the New England Patriots, all those games, the games now matter. You have to win the games that you need to win on your schedule when you're depleted, so that you're not out of contention when your entire team comes back to games in the 6-game stretch that you need that are going to be a lot harder than the 5-game stretch that you're in right now. It's proven fact. You lose a game when you already lost a division game and you're last in your division, your playoff chances are slimmer than what they are by winning, going 2-1 compared to 1-2.
Any stats about the playoffs, you have to throw them out from the past, because now an extra team from each conference is making the playoffs. The stats all get reset now, bro. It's a clean slate. It's not a must-win game right now. I know we want it to be. I know we want it to feel like there's extra pressure on Nick Mullens because he's coming in here from a team with Super Bowl aspirations and all that. There is no more games that are like, you want to go out here, you want to win the game, absolutely. But if you don't win this game, our playoff hopes are not shot. We can still get up with the number 1 seed. We can end up with no seed. The entire season is still ahead of this team. That's what I'm saying. It's not a must win. Under no circumstances is this a must win game.
You're 100% right that the whole season is in front of us. You're 100% right. But if you get yourself too deep in a hole with injuries instead of winning, there is no aspiration on the playoffs. You can say that they added an extra team. I agree with you on there, right? But you were just talking last week about you don't not start your starters because of a feel when you need to win these games. You just said that yourself.
I didn't say because we need to win the games. I said you don't avoid starting your starters because of turf or bad weather. I said that is the dumbest logic ever. If these guys are good enough to go out there and play, you can't say, oh, well, you know what? We don't like this turf. We're going to sit a lot of our good guys. No, if those guys are good enough to play and they're 80% or better, they get their asses out there and they play. I don't care about if it's snowing, if it's raining, all of a sudden there's something going on. You don't just get to bench guys because it's not opportune circumstances for those guys. It's football. If you're healthy enough, you get out there and you play. Benching players because, oh, well, we don't like this turf. What the hell are we talking about? That's not real. That's not real.
All right. Well, like I said, I think this game is more important. I think this game is important. I think there's more pressure on Nick Mullens. Brian thinks the same way, sort of. Tony thinks the same way as well. I think this game, like I said, I think this game is just as important as last week's game. It means a win. If we would have went 0-2, the stats and everything tell you that 0-2 making the playoffs is harder to climb out of compared to going 2-1 compared to 1-2. It's a proven
We're
fact.
not 0-2.
This
It's
is
impossible for the team to go 0-2.
This is a must-win game
I
because
said
we're better than the Giants.
last week going 0-2. If we would have lost last week, your stats going 0-2 are drastically different than 1-1. You go 1-2, your stats are definitely lower to make the playoffs compared to what they are at 2-1. That's all I'm saying.
Three 1-2 teams made the playoffs last year.
What teams were they?
I don't know what teams it was.
Well,
It was a stat I heard earlier.
What you're telling me? You're physically.
I heard the stat on NFL radio today. 3 teams that started the season 1-2 made the playoffs last year. That's just what they said.
My opinion, why would you want to get to that? Like, I think we all agree this is a winnable game, correct? I mean, so if you think it's a winnable game, you should want to win this game.
Right.
So now, if we lose this game, does it make next week a must-win game?
No, it's too early in the season.
Who said that we don't want to win the game? I picked us to win. I think we're going to win, but it's not a must-win.
It's got to be a must-win game, Mike. It's got to be because I'm being dead serious. Like, how do you say it's not a must-win game? We're down to nothing. We're playing a weak team with a lot of injuries. Okay, this is a must-win because we're on even level right now.
No, you know what? You're right. My bad. This is a must-win. We got to win this game.
Look. Somebody said in here that I don't think there's any more pressure on Nick Mullens compared to winning the game as there would be with Jimmy Garoppolo, and I totally agree with that.
Exactly.
I totally agree with that because this is a game that being detrimented from or depleted with injuries. You need to win this game because it's a weaker team in the NFL. You need to get that win in the win column. If you don't and you lose against teams that you should be beating, it's detriment to you. It's detrimental to you to making a playoff run. I don't know. I don't understand why you don't understand that. Like going 1-2, you have worse of a chance of making the playoffs than you do at 2-1. It's a proven fact.
What was the Giants' record through the first 4 games when they won the Super Bowl that last year? The last year they won the Super Bowl. One of you guys got the internet over there, right?
But it doesn't
Somebody
matter.
Google it for me.
Mike,
now it doesn't matter.
There's so much more that goes into it. Schedule. They play in the NFC East. They get 6 games right there.
They were a wild card team, bro.
I think
They were a wild card
That's what
team.
I'm saying. A chance of us making the wild card still becomes drastically different.
Just tell me what their record was through the first 4 games that they won the Super Bowl the last year. That's all I'm asking. For all I know, they were 3-1. I have no idea. I'm just asking what the record was.
Hey, Mike, I think that this is not necessarily a must-win game because we want to get back to the Super Bowl. This is a must-win game in the fact that it will build the confidence of our replacement players who are coming in. That's why I think this is a must-win game. I think that it will help build us moving forward through the season. We know for a fact that we lost 2 of our starting defensive linemen. They're gone for the season. Forget about it. Hopefully someday Sherman comes back. We'll see. We don't know. He's on IR. He could stay there the whole season.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and for people saying, oh, well, the Giants got that far because they played in a weak division. They were a wild card team. That means division be damned. It didn't matter what division they played in. It was the conference.
That's
it doesn't
Patriot
matter.
Logic.
I believe Nick is looking up the stats. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for there to be a gap there. Let's read this comment here from Symmetry. Thank you for the contribution. He says, every game is important, especially in the best division in the entire league. Stakes have been raised 2020. Look, I understand what he's saying, and we have expectations here. This is a team that is coming in here, and we're playing with standards, right? We have I don't know what the word is. I'm going to say standard again. We have a standard. We want to be a good team. We want people to respect us as a juggernaut. We didn't get that respect all year long. 8-0, people were like, yeah, but they really haven't played anybody, right? Like that was what was being said all along. I understand what you guys are saying. I understand how important every game in the NFL is. I don't want you guys to lose what I'm saying here. All I'm saying is that if we fall this game, it's not the end of the world. The season hopes aren't over, and then there's still a chance that we can play from first all the way to 7th seed or miss the playoffs altogether. But this one game does not make or break the season is all I'm trying to say.
It doesn't make or break the season. It's why would you want if we all
I
think
don't want to lose. I never said I want us to lose.
I'm not saying you said you wanted to lose. Why wouldn't why wouldn't you want the mindset is go into the game? Listen, guys, this is a must-win game for us. We got to keep going. We got to stay focused. We got to stay on top of it. We lose this game, we're down 2 games in the division. You know, we got to keep this is, in my opinion, and I'm going to say it right here, right now. We lose this game, it's going to be a bitch to get back in that NFC West, because now you're 2 games behind. I know it's not division games. One of them is a division game. So that means now if they go 3-0 and we're 1-2, you got to beat both those teams. And we couldn't beat Arizona. Russell Wilson's on fire. So why wouldn't you go in with the mindset like, this is a must-win game. It is a very winnable game. And now we're going to keep this group going. We're going to build. We're going to get steam. And then we're going to get our starters back. And then we're going to make our push. I just don't.
The Giants, when they won the Super Bowl going into Week 10, were 8-2.
No.
I got it right here. I'll tell you it. 2012. Look.
I said what were their first 4 games?
Okay, their first 4 games. Win, loss, or loss, win, loss. They were 2-2.
They were 2-2, and they won the Super Bowl at 2-2 in their first 4 games.
Well,
how many losses did the Niners have?
Right now, 1.
Oh, okay.
But they also, dude, look at that's what I'm saying. Their stretch of games. They lost to the Steelers. They lost to the Bengals. They lost to the Redskins. They lost to the Falcons. They lost to the Ravens. They won against they started off 8-2 and ended the season 9-7. That's why they played in a weak-ass division and they made a wild card where we don't play in a weak-ass division. Exactly what I was trying to say earlier. That you can't afford to keep losing games when you have Seattle, LA, and Arizona the way they're playing in the NFC West. 2 teams are going to come out of the NFC West. If you're not the second team in the NFC West, you're not coming out of the NFC. So that's why I'm saying that these games that you should win become more of an important than they normally are, where every game's important, but they become more of a priority because of your injuries and you're down a quarterback and you have to capitalize on the game that you're playing right now that is a winnable game compared to going up the Saints. You said yourself last week, if we lose this game against the Jets, what was your reaction today? If we lose this game to the Jets, and I understand it's going 0-2 compared to 1-2.
I said if we go 0-2 and we lose to the Jets, we have serious problems. You want to know why? Because the Jets were an inferior team and we weren't as injured as we are now. There's no logical reason for the Niners to lose that game last week. Right now, there's a slew of injuries. We are on our 3rd and 4th corners. We have our 5th and 6th edge rushers out there right now.
Well, we were on our 3rd and 4th corners last week.
We have tight ends 2 and 3 out there right now. It's a completely different situation than what it was last week. We're down our top 2 running backs. Everything is different than what it was last week. And 0-2 is very different than 1-2. I'm sorry, but it is.
The only difference from last week and this week is your 2 pass rushers and your running backs. The corners were the same last week. The tight ends were the same last week. That's all still the same.
Your pass rushers are gone. Your running back is gone.
And
your quarterback is gone.
Yeah, your pass rushers were gone early in the game, so we had basically
very early.
Yeah, but he asked me what I said before the game. Before the game, they were healthy. That's a different situation, right?
I'm saying, they were playing with the same guys, basically.
Right. You're down one of your starting linebackers. Like it's a very different situation right now. If this team were to fall just short, we lose this game by a field goal, I'm not mad as long as we put up a good fight. I'm not mad. This is Nick Mullens' first game as a starter. He went in there last week and was basically ready to just take kneels and go home. There was no pressure on him that game. There was none at all. Now it's a different mindset. All right, let me go in here and try to win this. But I'm just saying that I don't think that this game is going to determine anything for our future here. Because when Jimmy comes back, Jimmy could go on a streak and win 7-8 games in a row like he did last year. And then all of a sudden we're going to look back at this game and say, well, here we are 9-2. It wasn't that big of a deal after all. Anything can happen. That's all I'm saying. And I can't sit here and act like that the situation is exactly the same as it was last week. It's not. It's a different situation.
Right. You're absolutely right. And until we've lost 8 games, we're not out of the picture. So
I don't even think 8 games.
if that's what you want to look at, how you want to look at it, we can send 3 teams from the West to the playoffs. That could happen.
I doubt it though.
Given our how well, I mean, unless we're going to chew ourselves up from the inside, I guess. But
I mean, I'm just saying that the West. Look, if you get 3 teams coming out of the West, that means every other division is playing poorly and getting blown out by the top seed, and the NFC West is winning 11 games each from 1 to 3, 11, 10, and 10. Like that's pretty much to where you're gonna have to win 10 games in the NFC West to be a 3rd team to get in. And the only team that the division that you can look at is the piss poor NFC East. The NFC South, you're going to have 2 teams out of, probably because there's 2 high scoring teams in there. The NFC North.
The Falcons don't have a defense. You're really just worried about the Saints out of the South. That's it. The Falcons don't have a defense. So that's not the Falcons blew a 20-point lead at halftime and lost to the Giants.
I assume you're talking about the Bucks then.
Okay. All right. Well, maybe he's talking about the Bucks. That's fine. All right, let's read this comment so we can get this off. I'm sorry. Sean Shepard, thank you for the contribution. Guys, we are playing the New York Pee-wees B this week. Inept Jason Garrett is their coach, the coordinator. This is a will win. B Gabbard could QB them to a win. So, I mean, yeah, I picked this to win. I picked this to win this game on the last show. I think we're going to win this game. So I don't really know what we're arguing about. And I conceded 15 minutes ago that this is a must win. I shut up and I said, yeah, you guys are right. It's a must win.
Yeah, but you just conceded. You're like, we want to know how you really feel, Mike.
Yeah, look. I mean, some of us think that there's more pressure on Nick Mullens and whatever it is, whether there's more pressure on him or not, whether this is a must win or it's not. The Niners are depleted this week, right? And we talked about this, and I'm glad that everybody feels the way that they feel, right? Now, obviously, earlier in the show, I had us winning bigger compared to what other guys had. So this isn't technically for me, but this isn't a game that you go into and just think that it's going to be a walkover, right? And you guys on the last show who watched it had us, it was a very close game, a game that one play could make a difference, as in whether it's a fumble, whether it's not good field position. You guys all had us within a 3 to 5 point game span, right? I believe everybody had 5 and 3 at least. So that game is closer to where everybody that thinks as the faithful, this is going to be a walkthrough, right? And which is fine. I'm just asking people's opinion on this. So going into this, what do you think that is going to hurt us? So let me ask you this, Tony. We'll go with you first, then we'll go Brian, then we'll go Mike. But going into this game, what do you think? What scares you the most, positional wise, that we don't have on the field that can be detrimental to our team this week?
You're saying from someone that's injured?
Yeah, somebody that's not here. So what position can hurt us the most of players not being here? Players not being here could be most detrimental to this team, as in whether it's a win or a loss.
Damn, we got so many of them. Shit, I don't even know. I think Nick Mullens will do good. I think Kyle's going to protect him and put him in easy situations. I think our running backs. Listen, Mostert is probably one of the fastest players in the NFL, but I do trust Bobby Turner in getting people ready for to play, have a big role in the game. He did it with Jeff Wilson Jr. Now we got Jermichael Hasty. And listen, Kyle pounded the table to sign McKinnon. Guess what? McKinnon's the lead back right now, so we're going to see it. So I don't think it's going to be running back. I don't think it's going to be quarterback. I don't think it's going to be wide receivers. I don't think it's going to be the tight end. And I'm not saying Kittle's not good, but I just like what I see from Reed and Dwelly. But I would have to say the corners. I think not having Sherman on one side, I really think could be an issue. You're going with Sherman. I mean, you're going with Verrett, who we don't know is going to be. We don't know what he's going to be. Yeah, he's healthy. Yeah, we know what he did previously in the past 2-3 years ago. But
5 years ago.
Especially now, if they sit Witherspoon, you're going to go with Dante Johnson? I mean, and believe me, they're going to test it. They're going to test those guys. I'm telling you right now. I honestly, I don't think they're going to test Mosley. I think they're going to go right after that opposite corner, whoever's out there. But I would have to say corners because I think Saleh could scheme a pass rush.
Brian, what position being down and injured bothers you the most?
Well,
Tony said corners.
Tony stole my thunder. That's where I was going too, because I was looking at it from the other perspective. I'm looking at what the Giants are down right now, right? They lost Barkley. Their running game's down a bit. Their leading rusher right now is their quarterback. Okay. And
well,
so
they did sign Devontae.
Don't forget, Devontae.
Yeah, same thing I talked about before, or on the last time I was on. Kyle knows his tendencies. He may not know Judge's playbook, but he knows his tendencies. And he knows how to contain from the other side, so he can give solid input to help contain Freeman. That's my thought process. So we have familiarity with Caden Smith. We have familiarity with Levine and Freeman, and they're down Shepard. They're down Barkley, and
that's it.
Is Mayo on special teams?
Yeah, we know him too.
Mayo, but I'm just saying, like, I'm not worried about most of those areas. The part that I'm concerned about is Tate and Slayton. And so, and before the season even started, I was still concerned about our cornerbacks. I thought we should have addressed that during the offseason more so. Okay. And so that I have the same response as Tony. I think that we're weak in the cornerbacks, and we're just we haven't seen Verrett. We can only go off of what the players have said, what the coaches have said, and what little bit you might see from the film from training camp. But, we're just going to have to wait till Sunday to see how he sits. And hopefully he's good enough that he can, whomever's playing opposite Mosley can help contain those two wide receivers. Because once we do that, it's a wrap, I think.
Mike, so both these guys are agreeing on corner as in the piece that could be most detrimental to us that they're worried about. Are you feeling the same way, or is it a different position that you feel
could hurt us? Yeah, I think it's going to be linebacker personally. I think that when we were talking to Gio, he was saying that their offensive line is really bad, right? And so that means that they're not going to have a lot of time for routes to develop for these wide receivers. So it's going to be short passes. Well, that's where your tight ends and your running backs are going to come into place. And I think that with Greenlaw being out, they can run two tight end sets out there and target whether it's Aziz or someone else playing that other linebacker position, and that could keep the chains moving. It might not be, on a 5-play drive, it might not be 3 targets to the tight end, but it could be the big third downs. You know what I mean? Where they target whoever is that other replacement linebacker to keep the chains moving. They have very talented tight ends on that team. You know what I'm saying? One of them was a former Niner. We picked him up in Caden Smith. No, I'm saying that I like Caden Smith a lot, and so I'm naming him. And then there's also Ingram over there. So they have guys. I mean, Levine isn't really going to do much. He might be their goal line tight end, and that's just because they're taking advantage of that 6'7" or 6'8", however tall that monster is. But you know what I'm saying? So I think that the tight ends matching up against the linebackers could be the bigger issue for the calls. If it was a good offensive line, I would agree with what they're saying with the corners. But the way that he was describing their offensive line, how they haven't played together, I think he said 3 new offensive linemen?
Yeah,
what he said, right? So
one of them playing a new position completely.
Yeah, I just don't think they're going to have a lot of time.
My question to you on the linebackers, and I want you guys, anybody to chime in on this, whoever wants to chime in on this, is if they come out in 2 tight end sets and a receiver, and who's going to be the other linebacker covering? Because obviously Tart can cover in certain situations, right? Or, because we know that can we all agree that Dre Greenlaw is probably the best coverage linebacker on this team? As in linebacker position, it's probably up in the air, really, really close between him and Fred Warner, as in a toss-up, as in who is the better coverage linebacker. But we do praise Dre Greenlaw for his coverage ability, right? Now, Quan, on the other hand, I don't feel is a very good coverage linebacker. And who would that linebacker? I'm just asking this in general because I don't know, but who would that other linebacker be that's covering in that situation where Mike says that it's bothersome to have covering these tight ends in a 2 tight end set or whatever have you? Who's that second linebacker?
I mean,
who's that first linebacker?
Aziz is going to start on the at the strong side linebacker. I do think Fred Warner and Dre are probably our top 2 coverage guys. Don't sleep on Quan, though. I'm not saying he's better than them, but I mean, Quan has had some. His first year there, he made that big interception. I forgot who it was against. Maybe it was Cincinnati or something. But he made a great play in coverage. He picked the ball off.
He got hurt. He had one in Tampa, I think. Because didn't he get hurt in Tampa game?
No, he got ejected.
Oh, he got ejected in Tampa and got hurt in Cincinnati. That's right. You're right.
So it's, we're praising Dre Greenlaw. Dre Greenlaw was an ex-safety at Arkansas. Well, guess who's going to be active this weekend? Another ex-safety in Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, who, by the way, had a pretty damn good summer camp this year. I'm not saying he's going to be a plug-in and, there's going to be no drop-off in play from Greenlaw to him, but the guy is an ex-safety, and he had some pretty decent plays from what I read in training camp in the news. So, I mean, listen, I'm sure they got this. They're working on all different scenarios. They're going to probably be in a big nickel sometimes with maybe Travis Moore. You got Quan, because I know the Giants have really started putting Ingram in the slot. And I could see a scenario where if they keep putting him in the slot, they could put Tavares Moore on him, who's a bigger, more physical. I mean, not physical, but bigger statue than K'Waun Williams. Right. He's only 5'9", where Moore is 6'1", almost 6'2". So they have all different, you just got to trust in these guys and believe in them, man, because I'm sure they're working on all different scenarios, knowing that these guys are out.
Now, before Brian answers, do you guys really think that Aziz is the starter, or do you think Demetrius Flanagan-Foles takes that spot this week?
I think Aziz gets the start.
Okay. Because remember, Demetrius plays more of will linebacker, correct?
He was allegedly the backup to Warner, where if Warner wasn't pulled off that list, the COVID list, I think he was going to get the nod in the inside.
Right, but I'm saying what he's played will also, right? So this is my thought process on this, right? We know that Quan played Sam last year. Does Quan make the switch to Sam while Dre Greenlaw's out, and does Demetrius Flanagan-Foles fill in at the will spot next to Fred Warner? That's why I'm asking right now, because we keep forgetting that Quan played that position last year when he came back.
It could be. That could be a scenario, or they go nickel. If they go nickel, there's only 2 linebackers. So that's how you alleviate that whole scenario with –
right, because you bring in Moore or
K'Waun Williams, Moore.
Right. So I'm just saying that's something that I think they're going to do. Like, I think that Quan may move instead of being so sold on Aziz Al-Shair getting the start. Maybe Quan is that guy, and they bring in Demetrius to play the will spot because he has that middle linebacker type play with him as well. So against the run, and I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I mean, Quan has been, so we'll see. But let's see. I went Brian last time. So Mike, what are your thoughts on the? Oh no, Brian, you already answered this. I'm sorry. So you guys already all answered that, right? About the position. Yeah, I thought so.
Wait, I got an off script question really quick. It's based off of a comment I just saw. I'm going to put the comment up. But first, let's read this contribution from Trey Willie 40 8431. Thank you for the contribution. It's basic, right? I love this comment, and I love this symbol. I'm not gonna lie, that New Jersey with the 49ers, y'all know how that affects me, man. Let's go. Love the show, nothing but Niners fan. We appreciate the contribution, man. But I want to put this up here. This is from Forever Blessed, right? We got to stop the 3rd and mile downs, right? This is something that has bothered me since Saleh has been here, right? The longer the 3rd down is, the more yards we seem to give up. And we might stop them, but they'll go from like 3rd and 20 to like 4th and 3. And it pisses me off that we give up so many yards. Am I the only one that's been noticing this?
No, we like slide into a prevent and then like, okay, let's see what happens.
Right. And it drives me crazy because now you're giving them confidence. Hey, look, we just picked up 17. Maybe we can get this 3. Like, why does this happen so often with this team? I want to get your guys' opinions on it. We'll go to Brian, then we'll go back to Nick. I'm sorry.
So often?
Yeah, it seems like it happens every 3rd and long. We give up the majority of those yards. 80% of those yards they pick up on those 3rd downs. It drives me crazy.
We do. I can't say as to why. I don't know what in the scheme makes that happen, but we do. And I don't know if it's, solid, like I said, going into some sort of a prevent, like, okay, let's just keep them from getting the 1st down. I would like to see them to be more aggressive. They should be going after the quarterback, but unfortunately, game 1, we play against a mobile guy, right? So you go after him, pushes out. Eventually he scrambles long enough, just like Russell will, and somebody finds their way. So I can't say why it happens.
Tony, what are your thoughts on it, man? Because it just seems like a reoccurring issue with this team, and I'm not gonna. It drives me crazy. I hate that they let them get so close to getting.
It seems like it's a bend but don't break mentality on that 3rd and long situation. But I also think we've seen it a lot versus Arizona, where the defensive line wasn't playing to their full potential, where they were rushing, like they were hesitant in their rushes. So I think because of the Giants there's a more pocket quarterback. Like a more stationary quarterback, but he could still run. But I mean, he's going to be a pocket thrower first, and then maybe if the play breaks down, he could scuttle out a little bit. But I think Saleh is going to come up with a design up front where to get pressure on Jones. Okay, I think they do have a somewhat talented offensive line. Certain players are decent. Like Kevin Zeidel is a great player. He's the guard. I really like the Thomas kid, but I think Thomas, I think they're going to be able to get to him because I think they're going to really try to scheme up on him to really he needs to make a split decision and overload his side. But yeah, that's their mentality. I feel like they put their linebackers maybe 4 yards in front of that 1st down line, and they say, give anything in front and go get them.
All right. I mean, I guess that's it. They maybe like playing the sticks. You know what I mean? So they're just lining back up and just, letting it go from that way. I don't know. It just feels weird to me. Thanks, Nick, for switching it back. It just feels weird to me, and I hate seeing it go down like that. I do have another question for you guys while Nick is situated over there. There's a lot of injuries, right? What replacement player are you guys most looking forward to see? I've seen people saying, I can't wait to see Hasty finally get some touches or catches. You know what I'm saying? They want to see more Reed. They want to know if the rookie tight end can finally get involved in the game. Who is it? Maybe Jason Verrett if he's the guy that's up. What are some of the replacement players? Maybe some of these pass rushers. Who are the guys you guys are looking forward to seeing that wouldn't normally be in the lineup if we were healthy?
I am looking forward to seeing Jeff Wilson try to replace Tico because you guys know where I stand with Tico. Like we should have traded his ass. I know people like him, but for money wise, it wasn't whatever. I just want to see Jeff Wilson get some touches other than the goal line, or I think that he can do what Tico does, and I think he can be better at it. I'm hoping to see that.
All right, Tony, what are your thoughts, man? I'm still seeing. I see people saying that we're off on YouTube, but I'm seeing comments from YouTube. So I don't think that we're off. I know Nick is checking on it, but Tony, give me your thoughts on it, man. What are your thoughts on the replacement players. I like what you're saying about Wilson, though. By the way, Wilson has been my guy. I've been like pulling for him. It started with Mostert being the guy that I was pulling for, and then it was Jeff Wilson. I always thought that Jeff Wilson could be what the Niners visioned Jerick McKinnon being, a good pass catcher out the back with, put his foot in the ground and take off. But I want to know of everyone else's thoughts too. It's a great pick, though, B.
Well, I like Verrett. I want to see what Verrett has to offer, but I'm gonna go with Nick Mullens. I want to see Nick Mullens come in with a full week of game planning, and I want to see, in a game like this, I want to see him. I want to see what he can do. I think he's gonna be pretty successful tomorrow on Sunday. I really do. I'm not overlooking the Giants. I'm not saying they're gonna blow the Giants out. I just think if Kyle sticks to what his basics are, and he schemes people open for him to make it easy for Nick Mullens, I think the Niners could walk away with a W here.
Interesting. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with thinking that this team is going to blow the Giants out the water, Paul. But it's like, because let me ask you guys this question. 2 years ago, when we played the Raiders versus this Giants team, which team do you think was better? I'm talking about the opponent. Do you think the Giants were better? This version of the Giants or that version of the Raiders? Probably that Raiders team, right? No one expected us to go out there and do what we did against them, and we blew them out. So it's not impossible for us to go out here and put up another 30-plus points on a team that hasn't scored 17 all season. It's not impossible. So there's nothing wrong with it because, we know that we're hurt and we're injured, but that was the same case when Nick Mullens went in there and played against the Raiders a couple of years ago also.
Well, the other thing that benefits this team going forward right now is there's only tape on Nick Mullens from 2018, right? And this team is totally different than what it was in 2018. That's something. And then obviously the second half last week, but like you said, Mike, it kind of came out there and was like, okay, I'm just going to kneel down and we've got this game in hand, right? So there really wasn't much tipping the hat per se. There's not a lot of tape on Nick Mullens going into this season because obviously we know what 2019 was and where Jimmy Garoppolo was. So therefore, Nick Mullens was sitting on the bench, and you go back and you get, I don't even know how many games, 4 or 5 games that you got from Nick Mullens in 2018. And then you look at the talent around him. There's a ton of more weapons for him than there was going into that game, going into that 2018 season compared to what there is now on this team, right? You can name them all, whether it be Brandon Aiyiuk, depending on, even though he's a rookie, it's still more talented than the receivers that we had. Even with George Kittle down, we got Jordan Reed, who, is a better route runner than Ross Dwelly, right? And then Ross Dwelly's a good blocker. You look at Kendrick Bourne and his the way he's evolved in this offense compared to what he was in 2018. So there's a lot more talent on this team going forward for Nick Mullens to play in this game compared to what there was before. Now, was Nick Mullens a bad quarterback back then? No. I think a lot of it had to do with grooming him to be what you wanted him in this offense, along with the talent that was beside him, right? No team is ever going to go out there and win with just a really good quarterback and subpar players around him, right? You add, even in our offensive line, I think, even though with our injuries and not really sure, I still think our offensive line is better right now than what it was in 2018. So therefore, I think, the question that you're trying to ask is who am I most interested to see, whether it's a positional guy defensively or offensively. And, I've heard Jeff Wilson. Look, I'll tell you what, man, I'm really interested to see who gets more snaps this week in Ziggy Ansah or Dion Jordan. And I'm interested to see, and the reason that I'm interested to see is to see how we're going to be. If these guys can't perform against an offensive line where, KB was saying earlier, Kid Blue was saying earlier that this offensive line is very, very poor, right? New guys have been giving up a lot of pressures. Daniel Jones can't hold on to the football, those type of things. If these guys can't perform against a subpar offensive line, how are they going to be going forward? So they should dominate this week if this offensive line is as bad as people say it is. these guys that are filling in should give us some hope, as in, okay, these guys are going to be okay. But if they go out there and don't perform, that tips my scale to I'm more worried about the season compared to what I am right now. So those two guys I'm most interested to see this week, and for the reasons that I stated. What are these guys going to look like going forward? Can they dominate a team that they should dominate, or do they come out and play poorly against a team that they should have dominated in the trenches? In the trenches I'm talking about. So not just overall. So those are the two guys that I'm probably most interested to see.
It's a solid answer because I was going to go with one of the edge rushers also, so I won't touch on it more than that. This is a team that if they can't get home against this offensive line, then we're in some trouble for the remainder of the season as far as generating pass rush without extra bodies.
Yeah, and that's going to be one of the biggest things. Like, are we going to implement more blitzes? Are we going to play more man coverage compared to zone? Are we still going to try to get home with 4, with those guys? And how much are these guys going to be playing? Hey, Niner. Mike, he's going to be bigger than you soon. But those are big things that, like, is Kerry Hyder going to take more of that role this week? Is Ziggy Ansah going to work in? Is Dion Jordan going to work in? How much are they going to work in? That's where I'm kind of interested at, because those are two positions that were out for the rest of the year, right? In Solomon Thomas and obviously Nick Bosa. This isn't just a fill-in for a week, maybe 2 weeks position. I need to see what this defensive line is going to look like in week 10 as it is in week 3 compared to where you get your tight end, you get your George Kittles back, you get your Deebo Samuels back, you get your 2 running backs back. This is most detrimental position to me because that's where we make our bread and butter, right? Our pass rush has been so dominant that it makes our secondary look good. Now, you guys said you're worried about our secondary, but I think a lot of that has to do with how well does our defensive front play.
And I agree with you, Nick, that it definitely plays a part in it, obviously. And I think that Hyder does step up. I don't know that you necessarily see Ziggy come in and just blow the doors off of anybody right off the bat. Like, he's going to have to work his way into the system. I don't think that's going to happen. He's not going to come in and have 3 sacks this game. I just don't see that. I mean, it could happen, but I don't see it happening. And then having Kinlaw and Jones in the middle and Armstead on the other side, I think that we have that solid depth to back up. I don't think that losing Bosa ends our season. And quite frankly, I don't care if Thomas was here or not. If he's going to be here, I want him to be successful. But if he doesn't need to be on this team.
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's so much. I think it's easier for these defensive linemen to come into this defensive line than it was 3 years ago.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? So that's why I think that Ziggy has the opportunity to perform as well as Dion Jordan right from the gate, because it's like we were talking about earlier. It's more of a simplified system. Head forward, play the run on the way the quarterback. And that's where it's going to be interesting, is to see how these two guys play the run, right? Because we know that they can pass rush, but how can they play against the run? And that's going to be a big factor for me. So, all right, so we touched on defensive line. We touched on some players, positional wise that we're scared of. So whether it be the defensive line, the secondary, we talked about the quarterback. What are we expecting from this running back group this week, right? And then we talked to KB, Kid Blue, and he was talking about how the Giants have been superior against the interior run. Now, we know, obviously, the 49ers are more of an outside zone type running team, but they do run again in between tackles, right? What are we looking for out of this game? What will we be satisfied with out of these running backs that are stepping up, whether it be Jerick McKinnon, JaMychal Hasty, or Jeff Wilson Jr.? And who do we think that top back is going to be? And do we think that Jerick McKinnon is that number 1 guy this week, as in running the ball between tackles? So let's go with Brian first, then we'll go Tony, then we'll go Mike this time.
All right. So I think as far as what we think, it really doesn't matter, because I think that Kyle likes McKinnon. Like, obviously, he handpicked him. So he's his number 1, regardless of what we think. But That being said, I know we played on this field last week, and I know a lot of people have concerns about it, but I think that we see a different game plan, obviously different team, but I think that we see a different game plan and we see more sweeps or reverses, those kind of things. I see more for McKinnon to do, and then I'm hoping that they also put Wilson in there to do. Thigh master over there.
That's why I started laughing.
But yeah, I'm hoping to see Wilson get to do some of that as well. And then obviously, get to see Hasty, get his first NFL regular season snaps here. But I'm not worried about our running game at all at this juncture. So if we have another injury, then that's something else to talk about. But
and do you think so? Who do you think is going to be the back behind Jerick McKinnon? You think it's going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. or do you think?
I think it'll be Wilson.
Okay.
He
Tony,
has more experience in the system than Hasty does.
Tony, what are your thoughts on that whole situation?
I think McKinnon's going to be the lead back, obviously. And it's going to be very. I think as far as the run game is going to be, it's going to be a very, very similar attack to what they did with the Jets, because they both played 34 fronts. So the Giants are at 34 front, so you don't want to run on the interior of a 34 front because it's literally 3 linemen, defensive linemen within the inside shoulders of the tackles on each side. So I honestly think the Niners could scheme it and attack the outside, attack the edges, and see how they set the edge in the run game. But I will say this, I know it's off topic, but I think this game's going to come down to the center and the 2 guards and how they play. Because if they play like shit, there's going to be a big problem because those guys are big physical DTs and DNs, whatever you want to call them. Whether it's Lawrence, Tomlinson, Leonard Williams, an ex-first-round pick from USC, they're big dudes. So that's why I think they're so good on defending the run on the interior. But just one thing that was very, very concerning, and I don't think no one touched on it, was I think we could all say that Wilson should be the backup to McKinnon. But my thing is,
Go ahead. I see you.
Why the hell didn't they use him on the goal line versus Arizona?
I brought that up too.
So I don't know if something's going on in practice. He's putting the ball on the ground. I don't know. He did have a couple carries last week, but I just thought that was very odd because he was their goal line guy the first year as an undrafted free agent. So, it's going to be interesting.
I thought about that too, Tony. And the only thing I could come up with is, with Kyle always scheming things, is he just didn't want to tip his hat. Like if you put Wilson out there, okay, here they come, So if we don't put Wilson out there, okay, what are they going to do? It kind of gives you a little bit more variety of what might get called and what you have to plan for. That's the only thing I could think of when I was looking at that. I mean, it's no different than the Seahawks with beast mode. I mean, they didn't put him on.
You knew it was coming.
Right. If he in that Super Bowl, they didn't put him on there, and look what happened.
That's the thing, though. The thing that worries me is because we didn't use him that much, because we didn't know that Tevin Coleman was going to be out as long as he was. We didn't know Jerick McKinnon was going to be out as long as he is. So therefore, if you're game planning and thinking, okay, well, I'm not really going to use Jeff Wilson right now at this point because I don't know what's going to happen with these guys, and you're game planning for next week when you're not even finished the first game. That's bad coaching.
I don't think it was necessarily looking long term. I'm thinking just for the game. That play, if they put Wilson in on that play, they know he's coming. That's.
Oh yeah. I thought you were talking about going forward because
no. Just for that play, just that play alone.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, because
I the half third line and you stick Jeff Wilson in there, they're like, well, that's who's getting the ball and he's coming. I mean, they could use him as a decoy, but obviously that was the play they went with. They just used Mostert instead.
That was the question where I said I think it's more predictable if you put him in there compared to not putting him in there. But that's the thing, right? So Tony, who do you think is going to be that second back behind Jerick McKinnon? You think it's going to be Jeff Wilson?
I think it's probably going to be Jeff Wilson Jr. But I'm going to tell you right now, Hasty's going to get some touches, man. You guys get your popcorn because this kid's very explosive. And he's very shifty.
And I got another question for you, but I want Mike to answer this first. Answer that one question.
I agree with everything Brian said. Everything.
All right. So here's the question next. Jeff Wilson Jr. is on his only contract, making $750,000. Jermichael Hasty has no tape on him, and is going to be harder if he gets good tape to refer back to the practice squad without being picked up. If Jermichael Hasty comes out here and has a good game, is Jeff Wilson Jr.'s job in jeopardy when one of our backs come back healthy? Yeah, Mike, go first. We'll go Mike, then Tony, then Brian. It's not.
So I'm gonna say no. You're talking about if they come back trying to get Wilson back on practice squad?
No, so one or the other, something's gonna have to happen, right? So if Tevin Coleman comes back healthy, Raheem Mostert comes back healthy, that's 2. Jeff Wilson Jr. has been on this roster, that's 3. Jerick McKinnon, that's 4, right? Are you gonna revert Jermichael Hasty back if he's having big games and getting tape out there to where other teams can pick him up now and put them on his 53? Because we don't have that issue right now. There's no tape on him, right, in the NFL. So therefore, he comes in this week. Let's just say he blows out. Say he has 80 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? Let's just say he has a really good game. Does that put Jeff Wilson Jr.'s job with the team on the 53-man roster in jeopardy because of the fact that you're afraid to lose Jermichael Hasty by reverting him back to the practice squad?
Okay. I think that regardless of the outcome, when your healthy running backs return, you cut and try to stash Hasty again. I don't think the NFL is going to react to one good game by a player. I mean, how many times did Wilson have multiple touchdown games last year and no one grabbed him? Although I think Wilson made the 53 this year, right?
Yeah.
After he had those 2 touchdowns, did we ever cut him and put him back on the practice squad, or has he been on the 53 actively?
He's never been back on the practice squad.
Right. So then that means that the team knows that they're
he was a free agent this year. He re-signed a contract this year.
I thought he was exclusive rights.
Who did?
Jeff Wilson Jr. re-signed a contract this year.
No, but we owned it. I don't think he ever touched free agency.
He was exclusive, right? Pretty sure.
Well, wasn't he an undrafted guy? So
he becomes exclusive rights.
Yeah.
Then he goes to restricted.
Right.
So this year he'll be restricted. But
same thing.
Either way, I still think that you cut the rookie. If you have to cut one of them, you cut the rookie, and then hope that NFL isn't desperate for running backs like that. Now, here's the tricky part, right? Because we're going up against the Giants, if he has a good game against them, they might be like, hey, we got to get that guy in there. Like, this one team is the one team that could be looking at, hey, we need some more running backs over here, because they don't like – you heard what Gio was saying, the kid Blue or whatever, right? You heard him saying, like, yeah, Dion Jordan is the guy.
Yeah.
Dion Lewis, I'm sorry, is the guy, but he's averaging 2 yards a carry. You know what I'm saying? And then we signed Freeman right now. So they're desperate for some running back productivity. If he goes 8-ish on the Giants might be the one team that says we should get that guy. And we know that the Giants don't mind picking up ex-49ers. There's 3 or 4 of them on that roster literally right now between Colbert, the 2 tight ends. You know what I'm saying? So
right now they're low on the waiver wire. They're low on the waiver wire too. So that's why I'm like trying to pose this question, because if you cut Jeff Wilson Jr., you lose what, $750,000, I believe it is, right? Compared to
minus 3 games worth of it. So it's this,
Yeah, minus 3 games, right? So, Tony, what are your thoughts on this?
As far as what? As far as who to keep?
Well, so I'm saying if Jermichael Hasty comes out here and plays a really good game, right? Now, he could play 2 weeks in a row, right? We don't know that because we don't know when Tevin Coleman's coming back. We don't know if Raheem Mostert's coming back the following week against Philadelphia. So let's say he has, a really good game this week and he still plays next week and he has a decent game as well. Does that make chances of reverting him back to the practice squad? Does that make the decision harder to revert him back to the practice squad and keep Jeff Wilson Jr. when our running backs are healthy? Or does Jermichael Hasty, we just take our chance and throw him back on the practice squad?
No, you can put him on a practice squad and you can protect him.
Well, you can only do that twice.
And we didn't do it once yet.
Okay, this will be the first one.
This would be the first one because he's going from practice squad to active roster.
No, he was protected already once.
Hasty has not been protected.
No,
he was protected this week.
Yeah, this week. This is one.
Right, so that's one.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So if you do it again, you can only do it twice, right?
Yeah. So
that's well, you can
do. I'm not worried about that. They could protect him and then they can make that decision from that point on. If these guys come back, they don't need them.
They can protect him every week if they want to. They can
Right.
only elevate him twice. Actually,
in order to
the
protect
third
somebody, what Nick is saying, in order to protect somebody, you have to cut him first and then sign him
Right.
back to the practice squad. You can't just protect him and then put
You
him
can
on the
only
practice
put
squad.
back to
You
the
got to
practice.
release him and
No,
expect him to
no,
Right
because-
now, we only have to revert him back to the practice squad.
He was never signed to the 53. What they did was they pulled him up and put him on the practice on the roster.
The 55.
Tomorrow.
So now they could put him back, and then if they need him again, they can put him back. Now after the second time, they
Right,
would have to
that's what I'm
cut him.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
No.
You can only do it twice.
Right. You can take him up twice and revert him back. The third time you bring him up, that's when you have to send him to
No.
the waiver wire.
No, after you revert him back the second time,
Yeah,
he is
after he's
eligible
been
for the
activated
active
twice.
wire.
So in order to get him back for the
No.
third time, he would have to be.
The third time he's activated, then he goes to the wire. He's able to go back to the practice squad twice, or not just him. Any player can be elevated and returned twice. The third time they're elevated, they have to go through the waiver wire process. I'm almost certain of that.
All right, so look,
I don't know enough about it to say he's right or wrong.
So this is the thing, right? So you guys are looking at it as week to week, and I'm looking at it as if this kid comes out and balls, do you think that he gives you more? So if he comes out and balls, does Kyle Shanahan say, you know what, you give me more than what Jeff Wilson Jr. is doing, and Jeff Wilson Jr. is gone, and JaMychal Hasty takes his spot on this roster?
So how many weeks? Go ahead.
That's my question, right? So we don't know how long Tevin Coleman's going to be out,
Right.
right? So therefore, if JaMychal Hasty comes out this week and balls out, and you keep him up you put him back, you call him back up because you have to each week, unless you're going to make him a part of your 53. So you put him back, then you have to bring him back up next week. Now when Tevin Coleman comes back, or Raheem Mostert, you have to revert him back, which is making him eligible for waivers because you can't bring him back up again. So do you take that chance in the beginning to where you know you're going to have to call him up again because you're not making him part of the 53 this week? He goes back. Now you bring him up again because Raheem Mostert or Tevin Coleman's not back, and you still need that back. Or the only other way to do it is Tevin Coleman goes on the IR, you can bring him up, and you make him a part of the 53. But then when Tevin Coleman comes back, it's still a revert. So that's where I'm asking.
That's what I think they would do.
Right.
I think they would stash Coleman and keep that kid on the roster. Because you got to remember something. Coleman's a free agent next year. These guys, they still hold the rights to these guys. As far as what we know with their cap situation, I don't think Coleman's going to be coming back because we need every penny we can get. So you could see a potential stash for 3 or 4 weeks, and then they could reassess at that time.
Yeah, I think that Tony nailed it. That's what I was going to say. Was I think that as it sits right now, we started the season off with 4 running backs plus Juice, right? 4 real running backs and a fullback. Now we have 3, right? With McKinnon, Wilson, and then Hasty coming up, right? Because Mostert's on family leave right now, or whatever you want to call it. I think that next week, when Mostert comes back, because I think that he will, then if they can revert Hasty back and they can protect him. But if they want to, they can keep. If he goes, like you're saying, if he goes out there and just balls out, right? You keep him on the roster and you find someone else to release and put down to the practice squad, because I don't think they want to lose him if he's the player they think that he is. And Tico's he's on the IR, right? For
Not yet.
Not yet. I thought they put him on. Is he not on?
No,
there yet?
they were talking about putting him on. They haven't fully, because it just says out.
I anticipate that he's going to be. That's my thought process. He's going to IR, and I think that he's going to be out. And when it's time for him to come back, I think the Niners will play stash where you need to, and I think it'll be Mostert, McKinnon, Wilson, and Hasty, and Tico will stay on the IR until they want to bring him back or someone else gets injured.
That's my question, though, right now. Why has he – so Kyle Shanahan stated that he is a potential IR candidate.
Correct.
If you're thinking he's a potential IR candidate, why are you not putting him on there now?
Because they're waiting to see how Hasty reacts and how this rotation works.
Nailed it.
Because once you IR him, he's done. He's done for the 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it is. So if you hold him out and you let these guys do their thing, then next week they can say, you know what? All right, IR him, keep him active, and we'll roll with this. And then when the 3 or 4 weeks come up, we can reassess. We could either drop Hasty back down and activate Coleman or just keep it at bay.
Or you could potentially see Kyle not scheme anything fancy so that there's nothing big on tape for Hasty, and then they don't have to worry about it because still nobody has any information.
That's true, too.
I mean, I hope that that's not the case because I like the kid and I think that he could be awesome for this team. But we also got to think, Kyle does things for long-term reasons, so he may not be in the game plan. Come on, Mike, bring it.
No, I don't have anything on it. You guys are touching on it all. There's no need for me to keep going on it. You guys, I got it. I have another subject though that I do want us to discuss. I know we talked about running backs and everything and quarterback expectations, but I don't want to cut Nick off.
I just wanted to touch on that rule. So the rule is, lastly, practice squad players can be promoted to the 53-man roster twice before they have to go on waivers upon rejoining the practice squad. So it's not 3 times; it's twice. That's the rules, right? That I just looked it up. So it says that they can be promoted to the 53-man roster twice before they have to go on waivers upon rejoining the practice squad.
Oh, that's cool. So you can activate them this week and then say, all right, back to the practice.
Yeah, and you can protect them.
But then you bring – that's what I'm saying. But then that's where we get into that trouble with that, because then you bring him back up because you're still down running backs. Now when he goes to revert back, you have a question with Jeff Wilson Jr. or if you put Tico on IR. That would be the –
You can alternate them, though, because Jeff Wilson hasn't been back to practice squad either. You guys just confirmed that. So you can do that with him twice, and then you can do it with Hasty twice now.
No, because he's not been he was part of the active roster. He wasn't elevated for the 55, so he cannot just go back to the practice squad. He would have to go through waiver process.
He would have to go through waivers automatically because he was originally on the 53.
Yeah.
So – all right, so I didn't mean to cut you off there, so my bad. I just
it's all good. It's good for us to get understanding, not just for us, but for everybody watching, because I'm sure, just like we're confused about it, I'm sure they're confused about it also. So it's weird rules with the NFL. But I wanted to talk about the wide receiver position and specifically Dante Pettis. I kept seeing his name in the chat over and over, and we were talking about all these guys that Mullens may or may not have rapport with, and we never mentioned Dante Pettis. So I looked up some numbers from 2018, right? And here's what's interesting. Dante Pettis had 37 targets and 24 receptions when Nick Mullens was in. By far, the most production he's had was with Nick Mullens. I didn't realize this at all. Talk about someone that he's had rapport with. Dante Pettis has always been a team 2 or team 3 guy in practice. This is actually pretty interesting. Maybe we find out what Dante Pettis really has here. This could be something. I kept seeing people say Dante Pettis, and I didn't know why. And I don't even think that they knew that. I think they were just saying, do we see anything from him? I could be wrong. Maybe they knew it. But I'm looking at his numbers here, and he was actually really productive against the Giants. 6 targets, 4 receptions. Against what's TAM? Tampa? 7 targets, 4 receptions. Seattle, 7 targets, 5 receptions. Denver, 7 targets, 3 receptions. Seattle, 5 targets, 5 receptions. And then the last game against Chicago that year, 5 targets, 3 receptions.
His 2 biggest games came with Nick Mullens against Seattle.
Yeah, Nick Mullens likes this guy. Maybe we're overlooking this, and maybe it's a game where you see Kendrick Bourne, Aiyiuk, and Pettis out there because that's where the rapport is. This is something that, like I said, I kept seeing it in the comments, and I'm like, oh, shit. Let me look it up and just see what's going on. I don't know if you guys saw me with the light all in my face and everything. I grabbed my boy's phone. That's what I was trying to look stuff up. But this is interesting. This is very, very interesting. And if he can do it with Mullens, and I don't know what your guys' thoughts are going to be on it, but if he can do it with Mullens, is there a problem with Jimmy and Dante Pettis? I'm going to shut up. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions to you guys was with Nick Mullens starting when we got to the receivers is, do we see more Dante Pettis this week? for that fact. So look, it's interesting, right? But I don't know if we see him. This goes back to where you say, you don't sit people if they're healthy. So if Trent Taylor's healthy, Kendrick Bourne's healthy, Brandon Aiyiuk is healthy, Mohamed Sanu is healthy, right? How much is Mohamed Sanu fitting into this offense already? It's going into week 2, a full practice week, getting the game plan and things like that. We've seen him on the field more than we saw Dante Pettis last week, I believe. I think he was on there. I didn't even realize he was on the field as much as he was, like watching the game. He was on the field with the touchdown, both touchdowns, I believe. But so this is the answer. Like, your question is, like, do you insert somebody into the roster because of the familiarity with the quarterback, or do you go with the healthy guys that have been playing and give you a good chance to win? So, I'm not for sitting guys like, I'm okay with Kendrick Bourne playing the slot over Trent Taylor right now, right? But I'm not okay with Dante Pettis, taking out a Kendrick Bourne. So, and even a Mohamed Sanu taking over and playing some snaps at the slot because of his height and things like that compared to Trent Taylor. But I'm not okay with Dante Pettis coming in and taking a spot on the outside is where he normally plays. He doesn't play the slot a lot. So I'm not okay with him coming in and taking a Kendrick Bourne spot where the guy has been working his tail off, and you don't sit him because of a rapport that Dante Pettis has with Nick Mullens. Like, you go with your receivers.
If there's a 3 wide receiver set, what 3 receivers are you guys running out there in this game, knowing Mullens is the quarterback?
It depends on how well, for me, it depends on how well Mohamed Sanu has fit into this offense, because he plays the slot as well. So my 3 would be Mohamed Sanu, Kendrick Bourne, and Brandon Aiyiuk. That would be my 3. Tony?
That's a good 3, but I think that it could be that, or the flip of it could be what's his name going to the slot and Bourne goes outside. Taylor's the slot and Bourne, because Taylor worked with Nick Mullens too. So I think you just throw that out the window with who he's worked with, and you just got to go with the guys that make plays, whether it's whoever. They can call up Rivercraft, and if he's making plays, he's the guy.
Right. Yeah, Craycraft.
Craig, whatever his damn name is.
Craycraft. But no, that's exactly my reasoning right there, Tony, is because, like you said, you move, Kendrick Bourne to the outside and keep Trent Taylor in the slot, but then I'm not replacing Kendrick Bourne with a Dante Pettis.
No.
So that was exactly my thought. So even if Mohamed Sanu doesn't fit in, I'm taking Taylor in the slot. Or Sanu on the outside and then Kendrick Bourne go in the slot and take breaks between Taylor or Sanu into the slot, whatever. But Brian, what is your thoughts?
No, I agree with what you're saying. I think that's the best 3 wide receivers to put out there. I don't think that I know that previously he had a rapport with Pettis, but we don't know where that's at, whether that still remains. So I'm going to go with my best 3 wide receivers, not necessarily something I saw in the past. So I think that your starting 3 is probably the best 3 you're going to get. But I did want to touch base. I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but I want to make sure that we are all on the same page, because it seems like you read the same thing, but we're interpreting it 2 different ways with the 55, 53 man returning back and forth, because the rule states specifically that the players that were elevated can be sent back down to the practice squad without having to clear waivers no more than twice. So that means twice they can go back to the practice squad without having to clear waivers. That means you elevate him, return him, elevate him, return him, elevate him the 3rd time, and then he has to go through waivers.
Right, but that's where I was saying. That's where I was saying that you need to make a decision when Tevin Coleman comes back, is because if we take him down this week and we put him back, so let's say Sunday morning he reverts back. Next Saturday you call him up again for the game, right? And then he plays in the game and he reverts back. That's twice.
Right.
Now you run into the issue where when you bring him back up, you have to make the decision on Tevin Coleman or Jeff Wilson Jr.
Right. And that's
exactly, or revert him back and he has to be accepted to waivers.
And that's how I was interpreting it. The way you said it, I thought you were saying he could only come up twice, and the second time he would have to go through waivers. It's actually the third time they have to go through waivers.
You could, well, yeah, because one up and one down is, or up once and down once is one.
And then up,
yeah.
So he can be elevated 3 times, but on that third time, he has to go through waivers. I just want to make sure that we're clear so that when we're having our discussions, we're on the same page.
Right.
And then the comments can understand as well.
Yeah. No. That's why I was saying that. Do you want to wait and see what you do with Tevin Coleman, or do you make that decision and put him on the IR now to where you don't have to revert him back? Or if Tevin Coleman's going to play, do you make that decision with Jeff Wilson Jr. right now so that you don't have to lose that revert back chance? Where when Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert are healthy, it's either JaMychal Hasty or Jeff Wilson Jr. up, and he's already got weeks on going into the stretch, and he's used to the offense. So that was my question on there. So we're almost at 2 hours here. We're gonna get ready to hop off here. Look, what do you guys think is the most important thing that we need to do this week? And I don't want anybody to give the same answer. So what is the most important thing we have to do this week other than score more points? Because I know Mike will be a smart ass to say something like that.
You gotta win.
Right? Win and score more points. But what is the most important thing we have to do to get a win this week?
Well, I kind of summed it up earlier for myself as far as I think the most important thing is for those to make our corners lock down those two, the wide receivers. Obviously Mike wanted to talk about the linebackers, but I think that for me, it's since I have so much uncertainty about our corners, the most important thing is going to be trying to find a way to make sure those corners can hold those receivers, or that the safeties are at least assisting to help restrain those receivers. Because I don't think that they're running. I mean, I know that they got running backs, but I just don't find that to be the strong point of their game right now.
Tony, what are your thoughts, man?
I think it's going to be – I'm going to repeat what I said earlier. I think if he comes out – I'm saying Kyle, if he comes out with this offense and they do what they do – because I'm going to be honest with you guys, and I said this to Mike, Nick Mullens made some big-time throws versus the Jets coming off the bench cold. I know he looked a little shaky in the beginning where he turned the wrong way for a handoff, but I think with a full week of prep going into this game, I think if he makes it simple for Nick Mullens and keeps it schemed for him, I think this offense will be fine. I really do.
So you think Nick Mullens' play is going to be the most important thing to us to getting a victory? All right. Okay. Good choices. All right. So Mike, we got corners and quarterback. What's your thoughts, man?
I think we got to win. This is a must win. It's a must win.
I knew you were going to do that shit.
I know. You said I couldn't say score more points, so I said we got to win it. No, all jokes aside, man, this team just has to play smart football. We have to play our version of football, right? Everyone says that Shanahan's based off of the run. So run the ball successfully. We have to do that and keep the defense honest. I don't know how far down the field Nick Mullens is going to throw. I expect him to play tight. I don't think that we're going to see a lot of deep safeties in this game. So we have to take advantage of every opportunity and make them respected. Space them out. Even if you throw 4 or 5 deep passes throughout the course of the game and they are nowhere near their target, keep those safeties honest. Don't let them stack the box. That way the run game can be successful. And I want to see the running backs be successful in the pass game. I know that sounds crazy, right? But we have a lot of really good pass-catching running backs on the field right now. Hasty is very good with the ball in his hands and in space. He's a shifty young guy who can move and burn people, right? You have McKinnon. That's what McKinnon was brought here for. Get him the ball in space. He's supposed to be the best pass-catching running back in the NFL, right? That's why we signed him and gave him all that money. And then there's the guy who we've said over and over in Jeff Wilson Jr., who's a former wide receiver. He's got the hands. Use those guys in the pass game, stat those pats. I would like to see all of our running backs account for almost 200 total yards, whether it be rushing or receiving. That's what I want to see. You do that, you win this game, and it's an easy win.
All right. So I said that we got to go different, right? So obviously I was going to go running backs, and I'm going to switch it up, though. So we got corners, we got quarterback play, we got running backs. I'm going to go with the trenches, and I'm going to, like Tony touched on it earlier, center and guard. If those two positions, even that right side, I'll just give it to that right side, right? So McGlinchey's play, Garland, and Brunskill. Those three are going to be key to us winning this football game, right? Because obviously we talked about, we had Kid Blue on. He talked about how well they are against the run in a 3-4 front against the run between tackles. Can we get these blocks to keep the outside and keep Nick Mullens clean, allow the ball to get to the outside? So I'm going to go with the trenches. I think the trenches on that right side are going to be the most important for us because we have to keep Nick Mullens on his feet and allow him to diagnose the field to be able to make those throws. So I think we're all on the kind of the same page, but I wanted to do something different there to everybody give something different. So we're not agreeing. All right, so we're going to get out of here, but I want to get score predictions. I want to get your guys' score predictions because tomorrow's show is going to be a fan show. So we're going to be talking to the fans about the game and letting them give their thoughts out. I believe that's 10 to 12 Eastern time tomorrow, Mike. Did we decide on that? Yeah, so 7 a.m. 7 a.m. on the West Coast. Wake up early, boys and girls.
We will have the phone lines up and running for you guys to call in. This is all about you guys. It's not about us.
Right.
I know it's going to be early, but it's because we are bringing you guys so many shows in a short period of time. You guys are really getting 6 shows in a matter of 3 days. So make sure you guys are locked in and tuned in and set your alarm clock so you guys can call and chime in. All right. We'll read text if you don't want to call in. We'll have you even on video. We'll send a couple of you guys a link so you can pop in 2 minutes, speak your piece, curse us out, whatever it is that you want to do, and let's have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, you tell us how fake we are or whatever you want to do. But Tony, give me your final thoughts and a score prediction.
I think they win the game. Score.
Oh, are you going to give a score prediction? Hold up.
I know.
Is this a first?
This is a first. I was thinking that. I was going to say, I know you don't do score predictions, but I want a score prediction.
Oh, shit. Let's go, Tony. I want to see it. You got that nice hoodie on. I see you over there, kid. All right.
I don't know if I should give a score because I don't want to jinx it.
All right.
I'm going to say
if you're superstitious and you don't do it, because then if we lose, you're going to be like, I shouldn't have gave a score prediction.
Yeah, so I'm not going to say it.
All right, so you got the Niners winning. Any other final thoughts, though?
I just think if they on offense, like I said before, if they keep it to Kyle's system, I think they're going to be fine. I think the defense is going to be okay. I think the front seven will be all right. I think that you're going to see the defenses. You're not going to see the normal defense. I think you're going to see a little bit different as far as looks. I think the starters on that defensive line on the outside, they're going to be Hyder and Armstead. I think when they go into their third and long package, I think Jordan is going to play the role of Ford and Ansah is going to slide into Armstead's spot with Armstead sliding inside. Now, the question is, who's going to be on the inside with Armstead? So I don't know what kind of rotation they're going to do. I would say, Kevin Givens maybe. Maybe they give Kinlaw some go. The secondary, they need to step up. I mean, they need – I could say until I'm blue in the face, they got to play. They got to stay healthy. They got to do their job. Like they say it time in and time out, do your job. So they have to do it. And listen, I think we come out with a W. And my biggest thing is I hope no one gets hurt.
Yeah. All right, Brian, final thoughts and a score prediction.
So, yeah, I'll go out on a limb. I think that obviously I think we're going to win. Just if anybody's reading the room, obviously. I would say that I'm with Tony that I think that the injuries is what's my biggest concern, and I think that that's going to I want to see everybody come out of this game as healthy as possible. But I think that it's going to be a one-sided event, really. I that's the way I see it. And I'll go as far as to tell you, I think McKinnon's going to get a Madden football. What are we doing up there, Mike? But anyway, McKinnon's going to get a.
You mind your business, B.
McKinnon's going to get a touchdown. I think Wilson's going to run one in. I think Sanu will probably get one, and Reed gets one. So I'm going to go with Robbie Gould kicking a couple field goals, and we're going to win this thing 34-10.
Ooh, okay.
Just throwing it out there.
Brian gave some bold predictions. Mike, you gave your score prediction on the last show. Should just revamp, just let everybody know what that was. And then I want a bold prediction from you for the game tomorrow.
I don't remember what I said the final score was. I think I said like 22-17 or something like that, right? Like it was something low scoring, like
22-7. It was 22-17 or something like that. Yeah.
But I'm gonna stick with my running back prediction where the running backs account for over 250 total yards. I hopefully that's bold enough for you guys. Whether it's all like scrimmage yards, all yards, 250 total yards for the running backs. And I would not be surprised if they scored more than that. I'll be honest with you guys. I wouldn't be surprised at all. But I'm going to stick with the running backs at the bold prediction, accounting for 250 total scrimmage yards.
All right. I gave my score prediction on the last show. I went with 33-13, the 49ers winning. My bold prediction is that Jermichael Hasty has more touches than Jeff Wilson Jr. tomorrow and sees pay dirt. That's my bold prediction. I've been on that for a couple days now. But I'm going 33-13. Niners win, and I think we win dominantly in the trenches, and I think that's where we win the game. So I think our defensive line flusters and gets on Daniel Jones. And I also think another thought here is we see a lot more rolling out in this offensive scheme tomorrow or Sunday with Nick Mullens. The more of the rollout passes compared to what we've been seeing in the offense lately. So, guys, that'll be it for us. 2 shows tonight. Thanks for you guys tuning in. You see it at the bottom there. Tomorrow morning, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, if Brian can get out of bed.
No.
10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to be doing a fan show. Like Mike said, we'll have the phone lines open. We'll have the video line open. So if you guys want to jump in, great. If not, don't worry. We'll be back Sunday as well. You can rewatch that one. Make sure you drop us some love in the comments and hit that like and subscribe button when you guys watch that. And also, Sunday we'll be back with our regular 3 shows, 1 hour before kickoff, halftime show, and then overreaction show. I know you guys love that one as well. So that's pretty much all we got for final thoughts, man. Mike, let's take it away, man.
Prepare for glory.